think it's a matter of assessing your seasons, understanding when, like knowing when is the right season for you, knowing when you have the stamina, the energy. This is why self-care and that practice is so important. So you're able to assess, do I have enough stamina for this runway that maybe can look at as a grind. But the grind and the culture of it is the team no sleep all day, every day. No, sleep is for suckers, like that whole thing. No, especially for women, absolutely not. If you even study the women's human body, men can sustain a little bit more where that grind makes sense, but for women, no.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey there, and welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I am your host, Monique T. Marshall. For so many of us as Black entrepreneurs, grinding has really been stitched into our story, from how our ancestors were being valued only for how much they could produce, to today's hustle culture that praises exhaustion. It can honestly feel like rest is something we haven't earned yet. We push, we sacrifice, and we tell ourselves that once the business hits that next level, then we'll finally slow down. But the reality is, many of us are running on empty long before we ever get there. That's why I am so hype about today's conversation with LaurenWells, holistic wellness and mindfulness coach, and also the founder of Hervival. Lauren helps high-achieving women learn how to prioritize mindfulness and self-care as a strategy, not a luxury. Her work is rooted in helping us break free from cycles of burnout so we can sustain our businesses and our well-being at the same time. She knows firsthand what it means to juggle ambition with wellness, and she's here to share tools that we as Black entrepreneurs can actually apply to our daily lives. In this episode, we're talking about why grind culture is hurting our community, how to recognize the early signs of burnout, and practical ways to build businesses that allows us to thrive and not just survive. This conversation is really about rewriting what success looks like for us, and it starts with reclaiming our right to rest and wholeness. So let's get into it. Lauren, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I am glad to have you on the show, finally making this happen. So I'm excited that you are here.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited finally, right?
Right,
We've had
right.
some time. So, everything in perfect timing. I'm glad to be on today. So, thank you.
Yes. So we are going to kick today's conversation off. We're going to talk about beyond the grind, really creating a sustainable life, but also a business using holistic wellness. So before we do all those things, I would love it if you could share a little bit about who you are, your background, and how did you get here?
Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Wells, Christian. I starting to add in my married name
Mm-hmm.
in more and more. But I'm the founder of Hervival, which is a holistic wellness and self-care company. But first and foremost, I am a God-fearing woman. I am a wife, a proud auntie, godmother, doing all the things. But I love the I feel like living in the life of thriving and wellness is like an art, right? So I find my expressive ways of being within that by starting my own company, Hervival, again, which is a holistic wellness and personal development company that's all about empowering women and partnering with organizations to foster stress management, prevent burnout, and enhance productivity through mindfulness holistic practices. We have a community. We're a community first organization, so we started off with our community that really helps women to feel seen, supported, and held accountable to support them on their wellness and self-care. And yeah, how did I get here? How much time we have?
We got time. We got time.
I was now that I look at it and I'm here, I didn't realize that my journey started 25 years ago.
Wow.
I started out studying nursing. I always had a knack of just helping people, not sure in what lane and how that was going to go, but I've always studied the body. I always wanted to people to feel well, because I feel like that's important for us to live in this day-to-day life. However, I started to transition from more of your Eastern philosophy that is more of healthcare after someone feels sick versus preventative care and more of a Western approach as far as caring to the whole person and realizing that we're a three-part being, mind, body, and spirit. And that journey started to evolve in many ways. So how I started, once I had that realization, my, I guess, first detour path went into fitness training. I was a certified fitness trainer here in New York City. And I did that for about 7 years until the pandemic. And things started to shift and change, of course, for all of us globally. And it was a beautiful, chaotic journey, you know what I mean? Because we can't I just started going back to the gym to work with clients after having an injury literally months before that, the prior year. And I was still like building back up a clientele, and then boom, the pandemic happened. So it gave me the time to sit down and think of a bigger vision that was nudging at me. I felt God was calling me to make a greater impact beyond just in a gym setting. And that's when I went back to school to get my certification as a health coach. And I started to do health coaching, specifically on implementing, a strategy for like self-care, holistic well-being, intentional living. My concentration was in gut health. And then boom, everything just started to evolve. Like the vision of Revival was ordained to me. And I had a community on Facebook that I first started with doing workouts as the pandemic happened, helping people to just navigate this time that we were in, and also as a way for me to keep moving my body as I was just recovering from an injury. I had two knee surgeries from falling in the train station. So that community was built first. That was like Revival point one, you know what I mean, before I even knew, before calling it that. And that was the space and community that I started to hear what women were really experiencing, going through, what they were having challenges with, us not even knowing the term of that being burnout.
Right.
Because we just go, and hearing the things that what they want to achieve. So it was like, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm struggling, here's what I want to achieve and have a fulfilled, thriving life. And then I don't know how to get into the consistent habits and the day to day to take care of myself, because I don't know what that looks like to take care of ourselves. Us as a community, it's a community full of mostly Black women, Latina women, women of color. And we don't even know, we didn't have our mothers, grandmothers to even know what that looked like of someone taking care of herself. So collectively within that space and community, we're navigating that we feel this way. We're stressed, we're burnt out, we're having mental health challenges, or whatever the case may be. So I started pouring into that community way before Revival was fully birthed, with my best friends who are therapists, and talking about real life challenges and situations that's getting in the way of us prioritizing ourselves. And through that time, through me studying and finishing up school and getting certified, Revival was birthed. And it started out as a community. We launched a mobile app so women can have access to different tools on their phone. And then it expanded into what it is today as far as a membership hub with these tools and resources, and a membership community, because I wasn't in there as much. I had other, coaches and tools and resources and cooking classes and yoga. And now we are a full-fledged support group where I do, we have group accountability calls, support calls. We have our self-care alignment sessions that they love. So it's our self-care spiritual sessions. And here we are. Like, it's been such a, not the most linear thing, but such a beautiful, like I always say, it's like a chaotic roller coaster that was beautiful, exciting, fun. It has its ups, its downs, its twists and turns, but it was so purposeful, and we're continuing to expand and grow.
I love that purposeful work and just the journey of getting here. I love to hear like the stories of this was my issue I was having, this is the issue that I was seeing. And I think that even how you talk about the fact that so many times, especially this is the Black to Business podcast, we're not taught to take care of ourselves. And I really want to talk about this idea of beyond the grinding and first just breaking it down to understanding what holistic wellness is. So, Lauren, what would you say like holistic wellness is in the context of like entrepreneurship and all the things?
Yeah, so holistic wellness first is literally tending to the whole part of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how and pairing it into entrepreneurship, because I feel like entrepreneurship isn't just business, right? And a lot of us learn that through our journey of entrepreneurship. We just focus on like sales, the business, the marketing and all of that, and then realize there's so much of us that is bottlenecked or getting in the way of us showing up to be able to grow and thrive. So as far as holistic wellness and what does it mean into entrepreneurship is really about thriving in your mind, body, and purpose, you know, which is entangled into your spirit and your walk and your path, not just profit. So, you know, there's a real true thing when it comes to like evolving and feeling like I've seen it all the time. I've been an entrepreneur for since officially nonstop since 2014. I had my first dabble in it over 20 almost 20 years ago, but consistently for like 12 years now. And I found that, you know, a lot of us that have a lot of entrepreneurs who I've talked to on this journey, it's like they discover either the up down or down up. And that's more so like they focus on the growth, get the profits, never paid attention of who they are, what they're being, so they kind of get burnt out. Then you have some who might get too put into like the self-care. Well, I wouldn't even say self-care, because I feel like when people focus on self-care, they know what they need to be able to sustain. But you have some people that might go too much into their own journey and path where they feel disconnected from what they wanted to originally do in their business, you know, or the profit, or they have this weird entanglement when it comes to money. And you know, I've seen people literally like stop business because they feel like it's not of God, or so many different things. And I feel like it's like about finding the growth within the middle of that and learning what does that thriving in my mind, body, and my purpose look like, and how am I, what is the things that I need holistically in all aspects to support that, and then what is the one step in front of each other that I'm going to do, and then you know, just making sure that you're taking care of you as well as your business, because you know, I would say the best investment ever is
Mm-hmm.
going to be in yourself, and it'll pay 10 times fold, you know, versus just focusing on the business. And I've actually, unfortunately, for people who know me for a while, I've lost people. Like people have passed trying to push hard and get to that grind, get to that, you know, trying to make that $1 million bill deal, or whatever the case may be, like really, really pushing themselves and like, all right, when I get here, then I can be free. No, like focus on taking care of yourself first, little by little, and then make the steps, put the bricks and build them bit by bit on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So key. One of the things you said, it was like a light bulb, is this idea that as entrepreneurs, it's profit first, like profit before us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
when you're running a business, it's easy to get in that cycle of that's the only way I'm going to sustain. So I like to make it plain. You tell us what holistic wellness mean, what it means in terms of business, but what is the cost of ignoring these things? And I want to talk about why it's critical for business owners to prioritize their well-being over specifically that profit.
Yeah, you asked a really good question. And I talk about this in my workshops. One of the events I do is called the Success Code. And I literally lay out in that workshop of what is it costing you by you not prioritizing yourself. And that is your mental well-being, your personal relationships, you being able to pour back into your business and your business pouring back to you. Even into the statement of like, what you reap is what you sow, right? And if you don't do that and pour into and plant the seeds and nourish yourself, what are you're gonna run dry, you know what I mean, at some point. So it may come to the point where you're burning the candle on both ends, and then eventually there's parts of you that's lost in that. So I feel like the cost is is you, whether it's growing yourself, nourishing yourself, sustaining yourself, as well as the attributes that you're looking to, do within your business. There is people, and I remember having a conversation with this, that will hit, and I've been at that point, like, at that point when I had that hustle culture grind mindset, I was rolling, I was doing good. Business is great. So when I didn't even have the self awareness to prioritize myself, this would sound like mumbo jumbo, right? Until life happens to you. I have a loss of a
Mm-hmm.
family member that's very close, and I don't even know what tools to pull out my toolbox when I'm experiencing that. Or, business hits a hard pivot, or, like for me, I had an injury. What does that look like? I'm all in my business. Like, that's where it's, your ship is like lopsided, you get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it's going to sink at some point, and you might be well and selling and everything like that for a
Right.
while, but at some point when life happens and pulls the rug under you, when a deal goes wrong or something really happens hard within your life, and you don't know or are not equipped for that because you never, even nourished those parts of you to be the resilient being, and having, what you need in that time, then burnout starts to become. And people think burnout is just like, I'm stressed or I'm going crazy. Burnout can literally mean that you don't have the fire to keep going. You can't get out of your bed, or you're just not performing in the way you are, and you don't know why, you know what I mean? So a burned out, I'll say this last thing, so because I could keep going on this, but a burnt out CEO can't build a sustainable business. And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay?
Mary had the
Like, that's
lamb.
on period. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way it will burn at the end. And then it'll feel like you're just literally trying to run in quicksand.
Yes. I was having a conversation with someone recently about how, specifically as Black people, we have not really had the chance to relearn and recondition ourselves because of, like, historically, we were valued at what we could produce. And so there's this
Mm.
innate need to grind, and there's this grind culture, especially in the, I mean, I work with a lot of Black entrepreneurs. I see it all the time. So I want to know from your perspective, like, how has grind culture uniquely shaped how Black entrepreneurs view rest as well as success?
Yeah. I felt like in the beginning for me, and probably many can relate to this who's listening, because when I got into entrepreneurship and I started having this newfound way of, like, personal development and mindset, and the grind felt good, like it was like this dopamine rush. It was just like this false sense uh of what it felt like, progress and growth, and team no sleep, and all that stuff. Like, it felt good, but then you think sustainable, it's just a short bout, like, you know what I mean? So is given that microwave success, right? And when you start studying, the successful people who are out here making long money, building long businesses, growing and sustaining and really finding out what they need, because there's people that may have found, like, I had a conversation with someone today that was building their own business by themselves, and then they realized that they had they had a longer game. They seen the longer game, like they only can get but so far, when they joined forces and started working with the organization and helped build that and grew in there, right? So you just never know. Like I said, it's never linear. But I would say the harm, like the actual culture harm, especially with us with Black people, and the statistics of us having a higher percentage of health conditions with that grind culture can create sleep loss, chronic stress, inflammation, fatigue within the body. If we're not sleeping, our hormones is imbalanced, especially for ladies. You start losing executive decision fatigue, reducing your creativity and your flow, and then you just have a constant crash and burn at some point. So then that's when it gets to the point where people are like, I don't know, I just can't move or do the way I want, or stuff just starts tumbling down like a domino effect. So I feel like that's something important, and this is why I chose my walk on the health and wellness side and sharing and educating, because our health is everything, right? We need great health to be able to sustain. Like I said, I have watched people die to their last breath and did great, but what great can you go if you're prematurely dying, and the condition of a person passing is because they didn't get enough rest and their health took a decline into that, or having an aneurysm because of just the chronic stress and the load they were carrying because they're trying to push and grind to fulfill something. I found myself, and I almost caught myself in those times where I'm like in the hospital and the doctors can't find nothing wrong with me. And then when we pinpoint of what's going on, I'm like, my sleep was jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
Stress was high, even though the work that I was doing was a mission and I'm excited about it. Like it wasn't like I was stressed because this person is nagging me about something or I'm going through family drama. Like my stress was because I'm really trying to fulfill a
Mm-hmm.
purpose that I keep feeling a calling on. But if I'm literally over stressing myself out at it, not sleeping, working at 3 o'clock in the morning because it just, can't wake me up, but I don't have mindfulness practices and things to help calm my mind so I can pause, get my rest, and get back to it, then, boom, I'm in the hospital. Doctors can't find what's wrong, but I'm having, chronic chest pains, migraines like crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm super young and nobody's understanding what's happening. And then luckily I know the things today, because I'll be lying to say that sometimes I don't get to that point, because it's like I said, that grind culture is a dopamine hit, and you got to be very careful because it
Mm-hmm.
can become like addicting depending on a person's personality type. So, but now I have the tools to realize if I'm feeling a little slight headache, or I'm noticing my breathing is a bit shallow. When I pause, I realize I didn't get up from the computer. I haven't worked out. Like, I'm able to do a bit more of a self analysis, a self care checklist. It'd be like, ho, 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 if I can't keep going this way, or I'm gonna look around and have no idea what happened, and I'm in a hospital, or I'm having really bad pain about particular things. So yeah, that's how it can happen, and I know from walking the path.
Right. Ugh, so many things. And when you were saying that, even earlier you were talking about your journey and being in business for these years and how your own experience with the grind, in those moments you had such great success, but then how it was taking a toll on you. Now, I want to ask about, because transitioning into now getting those tools. But before I get there, I would love to know, like, so do you think that this is like a devil's advocate question, that
Okay.
grind is a part necessary evil for the journey, or do you think that it's not?
That's good. So I want to challenge that a bit,
Mm-hmm.
because you know yes, going after things, and but we it's in seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really study yourself and what's your season, then your time when you're supposed to show up best.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything ever taught us life and seasons, let's just put aside this whole global warming stuff, is Mother Nature, right? So we see when the fall comes, the trees, we're getting ready to hibernate, right? The trees is losing its leaves, the flowers are gone, or whatever the case may be. That's that slow down time. And we actually practice this in my Arrival membership community. We have a self-care challenge for each season that focuses on these different points, and then teaching women to know how to tweak it and navigate for themselves in their times and their seasons, right? Because even though as far as where we are geographically, my fall for my actual path and taking care of myself may not look like your fall, right? Or your spring or summer. So I feel like there's different seasons when we know of the go time, but I feel like that concept of grind, grit, and drill and hurt and pain, like, no, I feel like it's a matter of approaching the grit with grace, in a way that your ebbs and flows. I mean, just like a woman, we go through 4 seasons every month. If anybody understands cycle syncing in their body, right? Yes, we have our menstrual cycle. Like, we know when our cycle, is coming, our menstrual cycle is coming. We know we're going to be a little more tired. So sometimes we prepare, we move the grind is not going to be successful within that time, right?
Not the
So I
same.
think it's a matter of assessing your seasons, understanding when, like, knowing when it's the right season for you, knowing when you have the stamina, the energy. This is why self-care and that practice is so important. So you're able to assess, do I have enough stamina for this runway that maybe can look at as a grind? But the grind and the culture of it is the team no sleep all day, every day. No sleep is for suckers, like that whole thing. No, especially for women, absolutely not. If you even study the women's human body, men can sustain a little bit more where that grind makes sense, but for women, no.
Mm-hmm. Straight like that. I feel like somebody's asking, like, well, she's talking about her journey into things, but it's like, no, I love that the seasons, and just putting that into perspectives. And so now building this wellness strategy into our businesses. So, Lauren, what's one thing an overwhelmed entrepreneur can do today to begin to create a more sustainable life?
Um, get very clear on what really works for you. Like, what's your non-negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, there's certain things that if we know that burns us out, and we do have that choice that we can delegate or create things around. So for me, I don't schedule like certain things in the morning or at the earlier part of the week, right? So schedule your daily, weekly, monthly non-negotiables, and make sure that you factor in recharge time. So, like me, I don't do weekends. Like, I used to kind of push myself and go to events and speak like that on weekends. Some Saturdays, in the sense, I can, but it's a matter of the time and the hours. Sundays, I had to start saying no to that, and I'm like, that's my time, that's my recharge day, so I can show up in the week. I've had many times where I'm like, well, this is the only day to do stuff. All right, let me get the opportunity to go. And then I'm trashed for the rest of the week. You know what I mean? For everything I did. So schedule, like, get very clear on your non-negotiables of like what drains you, right? Like, really sit down and write a list of, like, especially as an entrepreneur and running your business, what parts of your business that you do not like, right? And be serious, because a lot of us be like, I don't like all of it. I just like making money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, be
Right.
honest. Let's maturely look at it, because I used to be like, I don't like no, but somebody else to do this,
Right.
and be very clear of, like, okay, if I had enough rest, if I had support or whatever, I could do this. And
Mm-hmm.
certain things that I'm like, even with the support, I can't stand this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
getting very clear with that. And yeah, schedule that. Put those non-negotiables, what don't work for you, what need to be delegated. I had a mentor tell me something. Oh, what's the acronym? Uh, oh, I'm messing it up. But it had something about, like, when you assess, is it something that you delegate, need to dump, or I think develop, like, need to, like, revisit in the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So without me getting, I might be messing up the three
We
Ds or
get the point.
whatever,
We get the
but
point.
I hope you pick it up what I'm putting
Mm-hmm.
down,
Mm-hmm.
as far as, like, seeing what you need to actually just dump and let go, delegate over to someone else, or you pick it up and work on it and develop it in a way that really makes sense for you, and still have your sanity and be able to recharge. And rest is super important. A lot of us look at, especially in the Black culture, and like I said, if we come from that grind, going back to that grind culture, we look at rest as like a weakness. We look at a rest as laziness. And rest is like your rejuvenation. We look at that because a lot of us, when we find our entrepreneurship journey, or we even find that grit and that grind culture within us, it comes from that survival and proving our worth space. So when we're doing that, that's why it comes with that, like, that push, that grit, that grind with it. And then depending where you're from, like I'm from New York, so the whole city that never sleeps, this is the stuff that's going on. But a lot of us look at rest as weakness, and rest is it's many things. There's even 7 types of rest, right? It's not just sleeping is just one. Exercising, walking, yoga, like those are rest too. So yeah, to sum up what I said, because you got my brain going, girl. Like, you got my
Love it.
brain going. So if I'm like rumbling on, y'all forgive me, because she's asking some really good questions. But it's the key thing. The one thing to start is look at those non-negotiables, assess, schedule it into your routine, and just remind yourself and have that affirmation that caring for yourself and rest is not weakness, is not pushing away from when you had to prove your worth. You are more worthy when you show that you honor yourself,
Mm.
and not coming from that survival mode. Like, it's okay and safe to let go from the survival mode. It got you to where you are, and what does that look like once you are living in a space of thriving versus surviving?
Mm. Whole new way of thinking after this conversation, for sure. We're not even halfway. Like, we got, okay. So these are all the things, so good. And one of the things we also talk about is like people feeling like they don't have the time. But again, we are getting the tools to do it right and to do it differently. And so I want to talk about, how do you feel like business owners can start to build that wellness practice into their schedule, even when they're feeling like, I just don't have the time?
Mm. Yeah, that's good. So, like, when I was a fitness trainer, I had clients all through the day. Like, it was either my time got ate up a lot from commuting to clients. Um, and then if I did have to handle anything, personal, like, I was always kind of on a go. And I was like, Dad, like, I'm a whole fitness trainer. Where am I even fitting this in? I would have clients from like 6 o'clock in the morning. There's times I won't get home till 10 o'clock at night. And I was building another like side business when I was doing like detox coaching and all of that. And I remember it got to the point, there's a book called, I read the book Atomic Habits. Um, the last, is it James Clear? I know the last name is Clear, but
Yeah.
Atomic Habits, right? Is James Clear. And it talked about habit stacking. So stacking it into your existing routines, right? So, at that time I was just like, all right, I want to read, or whatever the case may be, while I'm on the train, let me read. While I'm with the client, like that's when I did my walking. When I stopped getting in the gyms and I was at the computer, like that was quite the adjustment from going from gyms to always being like sitting at the computer. Take your meetings walking. You know what I mean? Get you one of those desks that raise up, and get a walking pad. Like, start habit stacking and stacking those things into your existing routines, and then having micro breaks is really important too. You know what I mean? Like, don't just because sometimes this self-care journey and taking care of yourself can feel like another chore, right? And like, don't ever forget to have fun with it and release, and don't put that pressure, especially for my type A people. I'm breaking up from that. So I'm speaking from personal experience, where you want to just check off the box. Be okay with yourself that not all the time you're going to check everything off the box. So I would say, when you want to sit down, this can also be, as far as, I gave you one thing as far as, talk about your non-negotiables. If I were to give you a second thing to start, is really focusing on every day, is like, what are your most important personal things and your most important business things, right? And this is something I learned back in my day when I was in Mary Kay, talking about the 6 most important things. So you could combine, like what I did, it was like 3 personal, 3 business. These are my 6 most important things. So if I could take care of that, great. And usually they were like minimal. I'll get them done at the early part, right? So that I would say that's super important to like that helps you to find more time. Like when I started to realize that, I was like, dang, I got a lot more time because I was cramming trying to get all it's always a bunch of stuff to do. So I started to be okay that everything don't get done. This is my business. I lay out the times. I still get the deals come in. I, take care of what I need. But when I started focusing on here's the most important things and check that off. And if I can find my own wellness stuff in the interim of that, then I found myself having more time and getting stuff done within that.
I love that approach. I mean, I was definitely writing that down. I just finished Atomic Habits. I feel like I heard you recommend that too.
I
That's a
love that
great.
book.
It's a
Yeah, I talk
great
about it a
read.
lot probably.
Yeah, and also, so we have the tools now to deal with these things as they arise. I want to talk about the clear signs that an entrepreneur is close to burnout, and what should they do when they notice this.
Um, So I'm gonna speak on the ones like, you know, that I've seen
Mm-hmm.
not only for myself, but like when I worked with a lot of women, coaching the women in my community, because a lot of them either run their business full time, got a side business while also working and mothering.
Mm-hmm.
The constant exhaustion, like I'm not talking about where you just like I need sleep, but like literally like this exhaustion of the fulfillment's not quite there. Things that really like excite you. It's just like you're feeling very melancholy. Um, what else? Of course, if you're having any body things like inflammation, headaches, really pay attention to that. But burnout can feel like there's just like the zest for life isn't quite there. And especially if you felt like you had it at some point and it's not there, then yeah, you probably because burnout is sneaky. I feel like burnout is almost like grief.
Mm. That's ooh.
Like how grief you don't know. You literally and grief isn't always losing a physical person. Grief can be what you thought your business could look like and it didn't happen, right? And that can weave into burnout. So it gets tricky with certain emotions, but I would say the signs, I would say the top on the list is that exhaustion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you ask me what to do?
Yeah, no,
Uh,
well, yes.
Yeah, so I would say like once you realize if it's just like the exhaustion, loss of appetite,
Mm,
like you're so much on the go, you just don't be hungry. Weight gain or weight loss, it goes both ways, and I've had both. I remember losing 20 pounds in one moment and gaining a lot in fast
mm-hmm.
times. So yeah, like the typical routines and stuff that get you from like feeling at your optimal best healthy self and it gets interrupted, those things can come up. And honestly, the best thing to do, even go back to that one thing to focus on, is self-assessing, like pause, delegate, dump, develop. I think that third one I made that up. So, shout out to my coach Joy.
It's
But
good.
I don't think that third one's there. So it's a little bit of hers and my
Right.
twang to that. But
Remix.
yeah, pause, delegate, dump, either revisit to develop and then seek support,
Mm,
so that can be in the sense of if there's things in your business that you just keep jamming your head and you're trying to do, seek support out there. And there's always support. And I feel like another thing, especially for us who come out in the grind culture, we feel like we got to do it by ourselves. Maybe
mm-hmm.
other people is moving too slow, or it takes a bunch of hoops to get support. You cannot do it on your own. You got to be willing to get support. And once I started to open my mind about that, and not allow things, because of course, as a business, you're like, maybe I'll make the money for, to hire a coach or hire a team and stuff. There's city initiatives that is fully funded. Go out there and seek your support. If you going to grind to anything, grind it to support. Find out everywhere you can go and get some support. You got your score, you got whatever city programs that's running entrepreneur support and programs, fellowships, accelerated programs, funding opportunities. If you go and grind with that, grind with there, because that's going to sustain, because at least the what you're working towards is going to get you more help and support. And and allow where you can take that breather. But yeah, I would say that, like, take that time to pause, reassess. Once you know as far as what your non-negotiables, your brain starts to think differently. Like, okay, this is not working. And I just feel like, especially if someone's like faith centered, like once you put your mind into something, you already put it out there to the universe, like, okay, this not work. I don't know how I'm going to get support. You don't have to worry about the how. You just need to be certain, and intentional about what you need and what you want. And then stuff starts working out. People start stumbling in your life. But yeah, I would say that those are the things to do. You got to pause, assess, delegate, dump, and get some support for sure.
I wholeheartedly agree. And also, this reshaping of this hustle culture and how do we continue to redefine what success looks like? Why do you feel like, because I know you've worked with a lot of clients and also within your community and also your own experience as well, this hustle culture is so harmful for that long term success? And how can someone start to break free from it? Because it's almost like I've been doing it this way for so long, and I
Mm.
feel like I've seen people do it this way for so long, and it seems to be working for them, but they don't see how it is affecting that person or even it could affect them long term. So, what would you say about that?
Yeah. You know what, Monique? I don't know if I could say a whole lot behind that, because I have been there and I'm in it, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
constantly, I would say the first thing, like, I can't sit here and say like the steps of like breaking free, besides just recognizing that if what you're doing is leading to a sense of depletion, whether it's money or even your own, your true
Mm-hmm.
currency, which is you and your energy, you know, it still goes back to assessing. I was gonna say I don't think I have anything. I do, but I just feel like the answer is so simple, and will it be received as much? But that's the thing of what I found, and just being okay finding the shift in journey. And sometimes I actually was having a conversation with some of my entrepreneur homegirls too, who sometimes it takes you out of entrepreneurship. Like, there's certain people who have found where, what I'm going for is not even here within the business I'm starting. Or, what I'm going for is not even a business for me to start for myself. I need a co-founder. Or, this is, I need to change in the sense of what I'm doing, and start by, like, defining what success and what the journey looks like, beyond money. But it depends on what's your motivator. Money is a
Mm-hmm.
motivator for some people. So I feel like, if money is the motivator, okay, what is it that you need to do to keep you going,
Mm-hmm.
and on that journey that keeps that coming in. But yeah, that's the most I could probably give to that answer. That was one of the ones I said that was like, ooh, that's a little. I have to think about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good and it's real. Sometimes it can be so simple. Like that's a real reflection within ourselves. Sometimes the answer is already there.
Hmm.
And so now we're doing the work. We know these are the things we need to do to redefine and put our well being first holistically. How do you then set those boundaries with clients, customers, or even family to protect your peace and your mental well being?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so we've now we're at the point where we're doing the work and you giving
Hmm.
us the tools and we're on board with like, okay, these are the things I need to change for my well-being holistically. So how do we then as entrepreneurs set boundaries with clients, customers, or even family to start to protect our peace and our mental well-being?
I'm gonna say a word that sometimes people cringe because maybe they're still working at it, haven't
Mhm.
got to it, or it's like a struggle, because a lot of us didn't grow up with it. Boundaries.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, setting clear, strong boundaries, like, and communicating it so well, and not feeling guilty about it. And I remember, shout out to Martine, one of our community managers. I remember having a time where I was experiencing where someone was like reaching out to me constantly, and like, just kind of like, and they wasn't even a member. So I was like, this lady is requiring so much, and I'm just a person that, like, if I'm here to support. And I was like, she's crossing lines, like certain things. We have certain rules and stuff in our community, and just certain stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of not. like working and just the time and all of that. So speaking in a sense where you said to customers per se, and I recognize the same thing when it comes to a team and the work
Mm-hmm.
that require us. I was like, man, I'm starting to see this boundary stuff. So yeah, setting the boundaries, being very clear and communicating them. The quicker you assess your boundaries, the better it will be. Go ahead and ruffle the feathers up front. If you feel that way, like I said, I'm an empath person. And I didn't like speaking, like it used to bother me. Like if I look back at myself from back then to now, and I'm like, well, she's just speaking so strong, and
Mm-hmm.
and I used to feel like, oh, that's too much. But no, like life feels so much easier when I could just communicate clearly. There's no harm. I'm not hurting your feelings, and sometimes people appreciate that. We can get on and over with it because most times that I may have a problem with, the person may agree, and then
Mm-hmm.
we don't have no problems again. You know what I mean? So a lot of times that's there, but yeah, getting that in like early, communicating it, and just protecting your off hours, like your life depends on it. I always try to look at the hours that I'm saying I'm going to be off. Like a lot of times, like especially at the end of the day, uh, there's only certain, because we have our membership calls, on Wednesday night. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even with your family, like as much as I have off hours with work, I have certain hours that's like, hey, don't bother me. When it comes with my family, like this is what my husband, I'm like, Wednesdays at this time is,
Mm-hmm.
her Bible membership time. So being clear with those on and off hours on both ends, from, in the business, out the business, and who needs to respect each other on both ends, and protecting it with your life. I realize, how they say all it, sometimes if you keep having and I'm a metaphor queen. If somebody hasn't realized, I think I plant my seed and put things down more by just, I think in a sense of metaphors and really getting it to make sense in how it works in my day-to-day life. But if we were to keep putting a drop in the bucket, eventually that bucket's going to run over, right? And it could take one more drop in that bucket to overflow. So I'm very mindful of that, because I'm like, as much as if I don't honor my boundaries or my off hours, and I keep putting that bucket, that
Mm-hmm.
drop in the bucket, it will overflow. So I that was like a vision that I started to create for myself, and that's something that I helped myself with. And when I share it with like my members and everything, like it helped them start to realize, because some of us would just, it's hard, as a
Mm-hmm.
woman, as a mom, as a wife, or whatever roles and things like that you have. Sometimes it gets challenging, but you start thinking that drop in the bucket, like, hold on,
It
I
can't
don't need
get
my bucket
full.
to get
Right.
overfull. Yeah, so the boundaries for sure.
I love that, and the ways to actually do it. So,
Hmm.
so Lauren, what would you say is one mindset shift that helped you or your clients prioritize wellness without sacrificing ambition?
Mm. Um, I realized the more I like, yes, we know wellness is good for us, but I started to separate wellness from just this physical thing,
Mm,
and realize that wellness it fuels ambition mentally as well as spiritually. So the more I started, the shift was realizing that I am a three-part being, and how much prioritizing my wellness fulfills those three aspects. And I started to use the wellness as fuel to, have the ambition, to keep prioritizing my wellness for the most part. And it's not the other way around. Like, it's not like be ambitious and, go after these goals. And then that's what creates the sense of feeling like it's worth, you're worth living for and having wellness.
yeah. Ugh. And one of the things you also mentioned earlier was this word I think a lot of people can relate to, in terms of like it makes them feel like they're not being productive. But how can entrepreneurs stop associating rest with laziness, but also that guilt?
Yeah, I was talking about it a little bit earlier, because once you want to talk about mindset shift there, it's once we realize that that grit, that grind, that culture came from survival mode,
Mm-hmm.
and tying our worthiness into productivity rather than tying our worthiness and who you are from a core, it does shift. That, I would say, that's a big one. So how to stop is to shift to understand, like, where that comes from, And then rest is, a productivity, it's a priority, it's non-negotiable. But it's literally a productivity tool. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
reward. It's a tool. It's a necessity that can continue to, pay you for it. It's rest is the best ROI you will ever invest into.
Mm. I love that. That's a whole quote. Rest is the best ROI. I love
I'm gonna put that on a shirt. Don't
it.
take that about it.
Please. Okay. We won't take it. We'll look out for the shirt drop.
Yes.
And Lauren, so what would
And
you
if it is taken, sorry, I won't. I'll make. I have my lawyer look at everything. We won't just take something that's not ours.
This is true. This is true. So what would you say is we're all about thriving. So what did you say it really looks like to build a business that helps you thrive and not just survive?
Mm, repeat that one more time for me.
Yeah, what does it look like to build a business that helps you thrive and not just survive?
I think it's more about foundation.
Mhm.
Building that foundation while implementing the three parts of you. Understanding your why. So once we understand that, it's the foundation for decision making and resiliency, and all those things like that. I feel like that's that core, and that can help you to keep thriving.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's definitely, your why, the three parts of you, to the core, and putting that and leading with that in the forefront as the foundation.
Mhm.
And it just starts to, unravel in every aspect that's necessary and needed to run a thriving business. It's like your key essentials.
Mhm. Oh, this has been truly, truly great. I now want to shift into the work that you are doing and some of that continued support. So, I know we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but can you talk more about what are some of the things that you offer at Revival and how we can continue people who are listening also to get that support and what some of your programs and offerings look like?
Yeah, so we have our membership. So our membership is definitely where it's at,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're someone who's been on this journey, off the journey, on this journey, back off the journey, and you really struggle when it comes to taking care of yourself, and you realize it's not, oh, I just need to go to the gym. And you realize it's not just this diet. It's really the space of community. You're having a time where you're struggling with consistency. And we at Revival, we believe the key of consistency is community. So, our membership is the perfect place that may be for you, that you can join our community. We have open and close enrollments at the time. So if you go to our website and membership, you'll see, depending on when this goes live, because right now it's a closed, it's closed and the wait list is open. So what you can do, regardless if it's open or not, you'll get the notification. You can text us the word wait list at 646-787-1230, and you'll learn more about our membership, where we are, if it's open. And that will give you, where you can join our membership, try it out for $1 a day for a week, see if it really makes sense for you, the community. With that membership, we have tons of tools and resources. When I do workshops and programming and stuff like that, they're always accessible for our members. They love our Stop Meal Planning Eat Smart workshop. We have different courses that are accessible, and some of them are earned. By the more you show up for yourself, you can earn some of these courses in our membership. So that is one of the biggest things that is there. And what comes with the membership, every month we have focusing on our self-care alignment sessions. So really focusing on what we need from a mind, body, spirit space to taking care of ourselves based on that month. That is one of my members' favorite things. It
Mm-hmm.
was something they voted for, and it's been something that we've been doing for the last 3 years. I'm very prophetic. I feel like God dropped the prophetic spirit in me to see, a foresight of more of like, what do we need when it comes to taking care of ourselves within that time. So it's something that our members really love, that I just allow God to use me in that way. That's every month, top Wednesday of the month. And then we have two accountability and support calls. to really focus it on where women are doing great at, where they're feeling challenged at, need support in, and then what are they committing to, and we can help keep them accountable. So, like I said, if you're struggling with consistency, those support calls are very beneficial for you. And then we still have the membership thread where you can post and show your rewards every day. So that's that. And once a month, we do have a mindfulness lunch and learn. So it's like a burnout recovery program that I put together where you can learn different types of like breath work. I'm a certified breath work practitioner, so you can find breath work activities and different stress management tools that you can have. So I do them in a smack dab middle of the day. Come in, lunch, learn, and these things that can help you if you're having like a crash and burn stress out day. So those are the main things that we have. Our membership, and then the workshops that we do on our own, you can pay individually to come, but our members have access to that with their membership.
Perfect. So we are definitely going to put all of those links in the show notes. Love that community is really key and central. And I now want to talk about what's one book or resource that you'd recommend to entrepreneurs who want to build a sustainable business that is rooted in wellness.
I guess I accidentally slipped it in the beginning. The Atomic Habits is there. And then one of my most favorite books of all time is not so much like business focus, but my most favorite book is Happy Pocket Full of Money
Mm,
by David Gakandi. Really, really good book. I probably listened to that book probably about 5 times at least a year, and I've been reading that book for probably over a decade now.
mm,
It's something like, and even though I read it so many times, read it physically, listened to the audio, I have both. And depending on my season, like I said, we know certain seasons. I have seasons where reading just don't work for me and audio is for me, especially if I'm like too burnt out, my eyes can't
mm-hmm.
rotate. uh as much as I read that book so many times, even years later, it's a nugget that just makes sense in my time in my season. So yeah, I would say that, and the Atomic Habits. I mean, I can drop more, but that I would say those are my
Go
two
to.
strong left and right ones.
Perfect. Love that. And then what advice would you give to someone in their first year of business?
Ah, I would say a lot of the things that I talked about here, like first, get so strong with your why. And this used to drive me nuts,
Mm,
especially for those who might have like started in like network marketing. They always say your why. If your
mm-hmm.
why isn't strong enough and not making you cry, I'm like, I'm not crying over my why. It used to drive me nuts, but it's not necessarily where it needs to bring you to tears, but like needs to feel so strong in your heart that it's just like it's almost kind of like your heart pumping life. So you got to find what that is. Like your why is the biggest thing. So if you don't have that starting off, I feel like if you're not intentional, you're gonna have a long journey. And ask me how I know. You're gonna have a long journey of kind of sort of getting there, but not quite,
Mm-hmm.
because you kind of sort of don't know what you want, but kind of got it type of
Mm-hmm.
situation. So getting very, very clear of like your why, your intentional, what you want outside of your UVP, what's your unique value proposition, what problems and solutions you're serving, but like really get clear in the why, like why you and why you're in it. Because the more you know why you're answering to the call, why you're called to begin with, and if you don't know, and this is faith based, not more so religious, anybody, wherever you are, but if you have something within you that you feel like is a calling bigger than yourself, you know that question of why you and why you're called to do that. And if you don't know or you're not clear with that, sit with that. Because I would speak for, like I said, I only can speak from my personal experience and being an entrepreneur for a long time, knowing a lot of entrepreneurs, watching some drop, some soar, and some really scale. Is is we didn't quite know our why and what we want, and we wasn't clear on who that's right behind that, almost in the same breath, knowing who your target audience is.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yes.
lot of us kind of like we're not so clear on our target audience, and then you're constantly chasing that. But that's such a double-edged sword with that, because as you grow and evolve, your business grows and evolve, you get in new spaces, your target audience starts to expand too. But every evolution, this is why you need to visit every quarter at least, from yourself to your business, is checking in and knowing that, like, your why and who's the target audience. I feel like your why and who you serve, you know what I mean, it goes the same. The more you keep assessing that and noticing as you grow, you see how you climb, like you start getting clear, and then that helps with your boundaries, right? That helps with the boundaries, because the more when we know that, the more we can like, like for me, still running pay what you can or $10 boot camp workshops is not it for me anymore. You know what I mean? So that's the most important thing I'll say in the first year.
I think that's really good because so many people don't spend that time as much as we should. And
Mm-hmm.
and finally, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Mm. It means being proud. It means knowing your worth. It means leading with faith and standing on business.
Mm-hmm. And that's a word. Lauren, where can people find you? You've given us so much today. Where can they find you, connect with you, and continue to support you?
Yeah, so I'm Thrive with LC. As far as connecting with me personally on Instagram, and I have my fun on TikTok. Still trying to learn how to grow on there. But so Thrive with LCW, THRIVEWITHL, as in Lauren, C as in Christian. Uh, in Hervival, you can find Hervival on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. But on Instagram, we're Hervival underscore.
Okay.
And you can follow from there, as well as go to our website. We have a blog, all the good things and tools. Even if you're not a member, I'm pretty sure you can walk away with, amazing things to help you on your path where you are in your journey. And that is Hervival, HERVIVAL .co, not .com.
Definitely put those in the show notes. And Lauren, I can't thank you enough for being here and, of course, always doing the work that you do. And thank you again for being on the Black to Business podcast.
Yes. Thank you for having me. You're doing amazing things. It is such a pleasure and an honor being on here with you and finally getting the time. So thank you for
Yes.
consistently following up and, making sure that this was here. This was so ordained and it felt so good, so charging. And I just appreciate everything you're doing. And thank you again. And thank you for everyone listening.
Yes. Thank you. And for everyone listening, until next time. This conversation with Lauren really brought us back to the truth that grinding without pause isn't the only way forward. As Black entrepreneurs, we've carried generations of pressure to prove ourselves through constant output. But today's episode was a reminder that our greatest power comes when we prioritize our wholeness. Building a business that lasts means protecting the very person driving it, you. And here are 3 key takeaways that I want you to hold on to. The first one is rest is not laziness. It is a tool that fuels your creativity and also your decision making. 2, burnout doesn't just affect your business. It impacts your health, your relationships, and also your legacy. And then 3rd, your business can only thrive when you make space for your mind, your body, and spirit to thrive too. If you're ready to go deeper into what we covered today, head over to blacktobusiness.com/267 for more resources and information from this episode. And if this message spoke to you, share it with another Black entrepreneur who could also use that reminder that their wellness matters just as much as their profits. I'm so grateful that you're a part of the Black to Business family, and I cannot wait to meet you back here next week, same time, same place. But until then, keep building boldly and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.